There's very good reasons to believe that the Blue Church is done, meaning that it's in the senescence stage. And senescence has a characteristic where when you move into the senescence stage, you tend to go downhill pretty quickly. So I'm expecting to see the Blue Church sort of increasingly obviously failing and increasingly obviously losing the habitual or unconscious or unspoken position of being authoritative and being just reality. Right? More and more people are going to be going, that's a thing. That's not the whole thing. It's a thing, and it's kind of doing something, and maybe parts of it are still good, but it's not the whole thing. And it seems to be increasingly fucked up. And in the meantime, looking around going, okay, now what? That's the key. Right now we're in a space. We're in that space between 1918 and 1945. We're in the space between 1077 BC and 800 BC, where there's a gap between a coherent collective intelligence, there's a coherent structure for being able to respond as a whole to what's happening, and a new one, not an old one, a new one, and they're fading. So we're witnessing that transition. We're in the middle of it. And a lot of the phenomena that we've been experiencing over the past, 15 years or so, are of that sort, starting around 2000-ish. Particularly accelerating. You can explain a lot of the things that happened that seemed very inexplicable, like Brexit and Trump, using this model.
That partly it's about novelty building up behind the Blue Church and then exploding because it had nowhere to go.
Well, it has to do with gaps in the Blue Church, so blind spots and actuation gaps. That's one side. So it can't do the things that it thinks it can do, and it doesn't perceive. There's lots of things it can't perceive, kind of willfully, actually. And then on the flip side, the rapid evolutionary development of capacity in what I'm calling the red religion, or the decentralized collective intelligence, just to make it very clear. It's not the red religion, just happens to be an instantiation of it, a way of solving the problem. So, there's a developmental curve. This idea of rate and state is pretty good here. So, Blue Church state of sense-making, choice-making, and actuation, high. Rate, down. It's getting less effective over time. Decentralized collective intelligence, state, low. Rate, high. Right? So there's going to be a crossover point. And what we see is, on occasion, we'll see a breakthrough where this new thing has reached a point of criticality where its capacities are now good enough to show up as actually effective in the visceral world vis-a-vis the fading legacy. And I think now it's actually becoming relatively commonplace to kind of see the struggle between Blue Church normative good opinion and new structures of sense-making and new structures of meaning-making and new structures of how those are beginning to try to cohere into actually sovereign collective intelligences that are able to do the whole thing. But we're a bit of the ways there, for sure. It'll take certainly single-digit years, and possibly double-digit years for the whole thing to come together to a point where it's transitioned formally.